Mary had a little man.
Fourth, we believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Oh, never an egg timer around when you need one.
With the school shooting that happened today in Perry, how do you plan to address the school shooting issue? Enough is enough with politicians skirting the issue on this, and it must be addressed.
I mean, it's heartbreaking, right? I mean, our hearts go out to the parents of all of them. Our hearts go out to the kids that are going to have to deal with this for a few years.
A few?
So much thanks to law enforcement, to the chief who did a great job, to the principal who really has come out as such a hero in this. But look, I have a mom heart. My daughter works at the Children's Hospital, and I worry about something happening there. My son is a senior in college. I worry about something happening on his campus. My son-in-law is a fifth grade teacher at a school. I worry about something happening there.
Why?
Every day, the first thing I do when I wake up is think of my kids, and the last thing I think of when I go to bed is my kids. And so I know the concerns that everybody has. But it is time that we deal with this in the way that we should deal with this. Instead of living in fear, let's do something about it. We have got to deal with the cancer that is mental health. We have to. 1 in 3 people have a mental health issue.
Told you. And today, you probably don't even remember that yesterday there was a shooting at Perry High School in Iowa where, now we found out, I mean, this is horrible, a 6th grader was killed. The shooter was a student at the high school. He was a 17-year-old kid, and then he killed himself. He killed, he actually injured 4 other students and the principal of the school as well. And her answer is we must do something about the cancer. That's mental health. What? Okay, what did Ron DeSantis have to say? What did Ron DeSantis have to say about what he would do? What he would do after a 6th grader plus 5 others were shot and killed in another school shooting in Iowa.
What can you say to Iowa parents right now who are afraid, who are watching this news? You know, these school shootings keep happening, who are worried about sending their kids to public schools?
Well, look, I mean, you know, we obviously, you know, have a responsibility to create safe environments. Federal government's probably not going to be leading that effort. I think it is more of a local and state issue. But we've shown how it's done in Florida.
You have?
The things that we've done have been very, very effective.
What?
But we also just have to look at, for whatever reason, there are people in our society that really get a kick out of doing this. And you have people that put it online and do all that. And that's an underlying sickness in society. And I think that involves things like mental health.
Never an egg timer around when you need one. Yeah, of course they did. They batted it away by saying mental health. Ron DeSantis at the town hall last night was asked whether or not he would change any of the federal gun laws, whether he would, you know, because there, and if it's not going to be a federal thing, because, you know, he's not going to be president, and he just retains his goober status for another year or two. Like, does he know that there are people in his own state legislature that want to do away with some of the instant background check, you know, as a background? Because we had a 3-day waiting period, like the cool-off period, like a cool-down period, you know what I mean? And he's not about that. He's not about. So they asked him, you know, whether or not he would respond to a 3-day waiting period being something he would consider.
A state senator from Florida wants to eliminate that mandatory 3-day waiting period to buy a rifle or a shotgun in your state. That is one of the changes that, if it was eliminated, would undo something that was put in place after the Parkland shooting. Do you support eliminating that waiting period?
I think that the background check should be instant. You have the thing, somebody goes, you can run them. And you can see if there's a criminal conviction, if they're a felon, then obviously they ping. If they have mental health adjudication, then of course they're going to ping. But I think you want it to be instant background checks, and so that's what I support.
So you don't support the 3-day waiting period?
I think it should be instant.
You'd be okay with eliminating it?
I think it should be instant background checks. This is somebody that people that go, law-abiding citizens exercising their rights, you shouldn't have to be on a mandatory waiting period. Instant checks will do the job.
Okay, so first he's touting, how Florida dealt with post-Parkland, the gun issue, okay, the school shooting issue. And part of the solution was a 3-day, this was before he was running for the presidency of the United States of America, right? I don't think he could believe his good luck that he became governor of Florida, but Donald Trump had endorsed him, hence, the rest of the story. He was the governor of Florida. And then after Parkland, he was very, adamant about doing something about gun violence in schools. And so one of the solutions to the school violence problem, to the gun problem in schools in Florida, was a 3-day waiting period. Like, you couldn't just go in and get a long gun. You couldn't go in and get any gun, right? You had to wait 3 days, cool off if you were going and doing it while you were angry, right? And so he actually touts that he knew how to deal with it in Florida to one interviewer. And then during the debate where he knew that the voters for the Republican national presidential nomination would be watching, he said he was against his own policy that he enacted in response to Parkland. Now he's against his own policy, which he just said to a reporter that he just thought nobody would be watching, that caucuses in Iowa, right? Or New Hampshire or any of those primary states. So he didn't, he just said, we knew what to do in Florida. We did what we needed to do. And then Caitlin Collins says, but the 3-day waiting period, which is something you did do after Parkland, now you're saying you don't need the 3-day waiting period. He's like, I want an instant background. I just want instant. But what about the cooling off effect of the 3-day waiting period? I just want instant. You have the thing, he said. You have the thing. And then you run it, and if they ping. Okay, so like I said, this is predictable. This is, you could set your watch by this. Everybody knew yesterday when there was a shooting in Iowa, and they were campaigning in Iowa for caucuses in Iowa that are going to happen in 10 days in Iowa, that they would be asked, because they were on CNN, about what they would do differently to stop these school shootings, right? And of course their answer is nothing. We would do nothing differently. Well, when you look at progress in this arena, I need you to focus now on New York. Why? Why New York? Well, Letitia James in New York understood that the head of the lobbying shop, the big lobby for gun manufacturers, the NRA, was a 501c3 company. What does that mean? It means that they're a charity. A charity. Now, she was very successful in busting up Donald Trump's family foundation for self-dealing and for being a really dirty charity that was stealing from the people who were donors to the charity, that thought that they were going to be doing something good by giving to the Trump Foundation, and instead it turned out that they were paying themselves. And so not only was she able to break up and end the existence of the Trump Foundation, but she also said that the officers of the Trump Foundation, Donald Trump, Ivanka Trump, Eric Trump, and Jr., could never be and could never have a charitable organization, because they just have proven themselves to be grifters, even when it's 501c3. Letitia James started to do the same damn thing with the NRA, because they're a charity too. And when she was trying to end the NRA through this, legal fraud statute, the court ruled that while she has to prove a lot if she really wanted to end the NRA, and that lesser solutions might be available to her. The story now has a conclusion. Wait.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Just to be clear on gun restrictions themselves, do you favor any additional gun restrictions or no?
I'm a concealed weapons permit holder myself.
Permit?
And I will tell you that we could go and take away a certain kind of gun today, and that would make you feel better today. But a week from now, there'd be another shooting. Let's talk about the hard truths. That's the reality of it. So in a time where we're seeing a lot of lawlessness on our streets and in our cities, we can't go and take away people's rights to protect themselves and protect their families. Instead, why don't we do the hard work and deal with the mental health? If we start to do that, I know that we will see a reduction in what's happening, but you don't take away from good people because you see something like this happening from other people who commit crimes.
I mean, it's just amazing. This is as far as they will go, is to blame vulnerably mentally debilitated people who are more likely to be the victims of crime than they are to perpetrate crime. Okay, but so the conclusion to the NRA story happened just a few minutes ago. So as I was telling you, Letitia James was trying to dissolve the NRA based on its self-dealing and fraudulent behavior as a 501c3, as a New York charity. And the idea that they were, stealing from the charity, that they were, that they had run up $64 million worth of negligent and legal the legal fees for the NRA were like $70 million. I mean, the whole thing was just so suspicious that she started to gather evidence about 3-4 years ago, and last year. She asked the court to please dissolve the NRA based on the evidence that she was able to show that the organization needed to be completely dissolved. And the court ordered that she come up with a less intrusive deal. So Tuesday of this week began jury selection in a trial that was about to start in New York with regard to Wayne LaPierre being removed as the head of the NRA, as the president of the NRA, after 30 long years. Okay. And he obviously was the presiding authority during the period of time when all of this self-dealing was occurring, when all of this abuse and no oversight of a 501c3 of a charity was occurring, right? It was mismanagement. They said, and then they said this whole thing was political and they were trying to. Turns out today, while they're in the middle of jury selection, the trial is supposed to start on the 8th of January. Wayne LaPierre, 74 years old, after 30 years of being, you can't take I mean, everything that they say there, the good guy with the gun can't be, deprived of his gun because of the bad guy with the gun, and the best thing to, for a bad guy with a gun is a good guy. All that garbage that looks good on a bumper sticker but has demonstrably been false in our society, right? Because you can look at Australia, New Zealand, wherever there's been mass shootings, and they collect all of the semi-automatic weapons, or they collect all the long guns, or they collect all the high-capacity magazines, whatever. All of a sudden, you don't see mass murder anymore. You don't see it happening. It just disappears as a thing from their society, from their culture. But anyway, Wayne LaPierre just resigned. He resigned from the presidency of the NRA because the complaint had so much damning evidence that was about to be presented to a jury, with the ask being that Wayne LaPierre be forced to resign his presidency, which was the best way to actually, end the NRA. And so she said, as today's complaint lays out, we found that the NRA fostered a culture of noncompliance and disregard for internal controls that led to the waste and loss of millions of assets and contributed to the NRA's current deteriorated financial state. This is what she put in the filing in 2020, and that she was able to prove that back 4 years ago. And today we have the resignation of Wayne LaPierre. So, there is a way where there's a will. What I'm showing you here is that Miss Mom's heart there, doesn't have the will to protect children. She doesn't. She was nonplussed. They were unmoved by the death of an 11-year-old yesterday, 40 miles from where they were standing. Unmoved by the clock now beginning yet again anew for the countdown of how many mass murders we will tolerate in this country and have to experience in this country in the next upcoming brand new year. So please do not think that if you're voting for a Republican that you're voting for freedom of any sort, because these kids are not free to live. They're not free to grow. They're not free to be safe in their schools. They're not free to of violence. This country is inundated with guns. We have more guns than we have people anymore. Women are not free. They have been dismantling all kinds of security in the name of liberty for generations now. Generations, okay? And I think everybody's familiar with the old expression, older than the crack in great-grandma's ass, this expression, because it's true, that if you give up liberty for a little bit of security or vice versa, you will end up with neither. And they have been double dealing you on both those issues. They've been telling you that if you take away freedom, that you'll have no security. And they've been telling you if you take away security, you'll have no freedom. Well, I got news for you. The only way to secure liberty for everybody is to stop taking it away from women, and to stop taking it away from school principals, and to stop taking it away from people who want to keep children safe in this country. This is so long in coming, okay? Anyway, so I just wanted to show you that. Now, Biden is in Valley Forge right now, and he just started his speech. He's in Blue Bell, Pennsylvania, which is the home of Valley Forge. He is trying to explain that America will never bow down to a king and that democracy itself is at stake yet again. So I just want to listen for a minute here and see. Let me make this large for you and see what it sounds like.
Questions. Is democracy still America's sacred cause? I mean it. This is not rhetorical, academic, or hypothetical. Whether democracy is still America's sacred cause is the most urgent question of our time. And it's what the 2024 election is all about. The choice is clear. Donald Trump's campaign is about him, not America, not you. Donald Trump's campaign is obsessed with the past, not the future. He's willing to sacrifice our democracy, put himself in power. Our campaign is different. For me and Kamala, our campaign is about America. It's about you. It's about every age and background that occupy this country. It's about the future we're going to continue to build together. And our campaign is about preserving and strengthening our American democracy.
Okay, we'll dip back in. I don't know how long a speech was planned to be given today, but we did know that he was going to Valley Forge today to make his case that we will never, ever, ever give up our democracy if we're alert and aware that it's in peril and somebody wants to use it to keep himself out of prison.
Next, to speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844.
561-270-3844. On the election, and he was a loser. Well, so knowing how his mind works now, he had one act left, one desperate act available to him: the violence of January the 6th. And since that day, more than 1,200 people have been charged for their assault on the Capitol. Nearly 900 of them have been convicted or pled guilty. Collectively, to date, they have been sentenced to more than 840 years in prison. And what's Trump done? Instead of calling them criminals, he's called these insurrectionists patriots. They're patriots.
Hostages.
And he promised to pardon them if he returns to office. Trump said that there was a lot of love on January the 6th. The rest of the nation, including law enforcement, saw a lot of hate and violence. One Capitol Police officer called it a medieval battle. That same officer was called vile racist names. He said he was more afraid in the Capitol of the United States of America, in the chambers, than when he was fighting as a soldier in the war in Iraq. He said he was more afraid inside the halls of Congress than fighting in the war in Iraq. And trying to rewrite the facts of January 6th, Trump is trying to steal history the same way he tried to steal the election. But we knew the truth because we saw it with our own eyes. This wasn't like a story being told. It was on television repeatedly. We saw it with our own eyes. Trump's mob wasn't a peaceful protest. It was a violent assault. They were insurrectionists, not patriots. They weren't there to uphold the Constitution. They were there to destroy the Constitution. Trump won't do what an American president must do. He refuses to denounce political violence. So hear me clearly. I'll say what Donald Trump won't. Political violence is never, ever acceptable in the United States political system. Never, never, never. It has no place in a democracy, none. You can't be pro-insurrectionist and pro-American. And yet Trump and his MAGA supporters not only embrace political violence, but they laugh about it. At his rally, he jokes about an intruder whipped up by the big Trump lie, taking a hammer to Paul Pelosi's skull and echoing the very same words used on January 6th. Where's Nancy? And he thinks that's funny. He laughed about it. What a sick
bastard.
My God. I think it's despicable, seriously. Not just for a president, for any person to say that. But to say it to the whole world listening. When I was overseas, anyway. Trump's assault on democracy isn't just part of his past. It's what he's promising for the future. He's being straightforward. He's not hiding the ball. His first rally for the 2024 campaign opened with a choir of January 6th insurrectionists singing from prison on a cell phone, while images of the January 6th riot played on a big screen behind him at his rally.
Yep.
Can you believe that? This is like something out of a fairy tale, a bad fairy tale. Trump began his 2024 campaign by glorifying the failed violent insurrection on our Capitol. The guy who claims law and order sows lawlessness and disorder. Trump's not concerned about your future, I promise you. Trump is now promising a full-scale campaign of revenge and retribution, his words, for some years to come. They were his words, not mine. He went on to say he'd be a dictator on day one. I mean, if I were writing a book of fiction, and I said an American president said that, and not in jest. He called in, I quote, the termination, quote, this is a quote, the termination of all the rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the U.S. Constitution, should be terminated if it fits his will. It's really kind of hard to believe. Even found in the Constitution, he could terminate? He's threatened the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff with the death penalty. Says he should be put to death because the chairman put his oath to the Constitution ahead of his personal loyalty to Trump. This is coming from a president who called, when he visited cemeteries, called dead soldiers suckers and losers. Remember that? Sometimes I'm really happy the Irish in me can't be seen. It was right around the time I was at Bo's grave, Tommy. How dare he? Who in God's name does he think he is? With former aides, Trump plans to invoke the Insurrection Act, which will allow him to deploy, which is not allowed to do in ordinary circumstances, allow him to deploy U.S. military forces on the streets of America. He said it. He calls those who oppose him vermin. He talks about the blood of America as being poisoned, echoing the same exact language used in Nazi Germany. He proudly posts on social media the words that best describe his 2024 campaign, quote, revenge, quote, power, and quote, dictatorship. There's no confusion about who Trump is, what he intends to do. I placed my hand on our family Bible, and I swore an oath on the very same steps of the Capitol, just 14 days after the attack on January the 6th. As I looked out over the capital city, whose streets were lined with National Guard to prevent another attack, I saw an American that had been pushed to the brink, America that has been pushed to the brink. But I felt enormous pride, not in winning, I felt enormous pride in America, because American democracy had been tested. American democracy had held together. And when Trump had seen weakness in our democracy and continues to talk about it, I saw strength.
It's a good one so far.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Not abandon it. We'll honor the sacred cause of democracy, not walk away from it. Today, I make this sacred pledge to you: the defense, protection, and preservation of American democracy will remain, as it has been, the central cause of my presidency. America, as we begin this election year, we must be clear: democracy is on the ballot. Your freedom is on the ballot. Yes, we'll be voting on many issues. On the freedom to vote and have your vote counted. On the freedom of choice. The freedom to have a fair shot. The freedom from fear. And we'll debate and disagree. Without democracy, no progress is possible. Think about it. The alternative to democracy is dictatorship. The rule of one, not the rule of we, the people. That's what the soldiers of Valley Forge understood. And so was me. We have to understand it as well. We've been blessed so long with a strong, stable democracy. It's easy to forget why so many before us risked their lives and strengthened democracy. What our lives would be without it. Democracy means having the freedom to speak your mind, to be who you are, to be who you want to be. Democracy is about being able to bring about peaceful change. Democracy is how we've opened the doors of opportunity wider and wider with each successive generation, notwithstanding our mistakes. But if democracy falls, we'll lose that freedom. We'll lose the power of we, the people, to shape our destiny. If you doubt me, Look around the world. Travel with me as I meet with other heads of state throughout the world. Look at the authoritarian leaders and dictators Trump says he admires. He out loud says he admires. I won't go through them all. It'll take too long. Look, remember how he refers to what he calls love letter exchanges between he and the dictator of North Korea? Those women and men out there in the audience who ever fought for the American military, would you ever believe you'd hear a president say something like that? His admiration for Putin. I could go on. And look at what these autocrats are doing to limit freedom in their countries. They're limiting freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom to assemble, women's rights, LGBTQ rights. People are going to jail, so much more. It's true, the push and pull of American history is not a fairy tale. Every stride forward in America is met with ferocious backlash many times from those who fear progress and those who exploit that fear for their own personal gain. From those who traffic in lies, told for power and profit. For those who are driven by grievance and grift, consumed by conspiracy and victimhood. From those who seek to bury history and ban books. Do you ever think you'd be in a political event talking about book banning for the presidential election? The choice and contest between those forces, those competing forces, between solidarity and division, is perennial. But this time it's so different. You can't have a contest. You can't have a contest if you see politics as an all-out war instead of a peaceful way to resolve our differences. All-out war is what Trump wants. That's why he doesn't understand the most fundamental truth about this country. Unlike other nations on earth, America is not built on ethnicity, religion, geography. We're the only nation in the history of the world built on an idea. Not hyperbole, built on an idea. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal. It's an idea. Declared in the Declaration, created in a way that we've viewed everybody as equal and should be treated equal throughout their lives. We've never fully lived up to that. We have a long way to go. But we've never walked away from the idea. We've never walked away from it before. And I promise you, I will not let Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans force us to walk away now. We're living in an era where a determined minority is doing everything in its power to try to destroy our democracy for their own agenda. The American people know it, and they're standing bravely in the breach. Remember after 2020, January 6th insurrection to undo the election in which more Americans had voted than any other in American history? America saw the threat posed to the country, and they voted them out. In 2022, historic midterm election, in state after state, election after election, the election deniers were defeated. Now in 2024, Trump is running as the denier-in-chief, the election denier-in-chief. Once again, he's saying he won't honor the results of the election if he loses. Trump says he doesn't understand. Well, he still doesn't understand the basic truth. That is, you can't love your country only when you win. You can't love your country only when you win. So I'll keep my commitment to be president for all of America, whether you voted for me or not. I've done it for the last 3 years, and I'll continue to do it. Together, we can keep proving that America is still a country that believes in decency, dignity, honesty, honor, truth. We still believe that no one, not even the president, is above the law. We still believe The vast majority of us still believe that everyone deserves a fair shot at making it. We're still a nation that gives hate no safe harbor. I tell you from my experience working with leaders around the world, and I mean this sincerely, not a joke, that America is still viewed as the beacon of democracy for the world. I can't tell you how many world leaders, and I know all of them, virtually all of them, grab my arm in private and say, "He can't win. Tell me." No, my country will be at risk. Think of how many countries, Tommy, you know, that are on the edge. Imagine. We still believe in we the people, and that includes all of us, not some of us. Let me close with this. In the cold winter of 1777, George Washington and his American troops at Valley Forge waged a battle on behalf of a revolutionary idea that everyday people, like where I come from and the vast majority of you, not a king or a dictator, that everyday people can govern themselves without a king or a dictator. In fact, in the rotunda of the Capitol, there's a giant painting of General George Washington, not President Washington. And he is resigning his commission as Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army. A European king at the time said, after he won the revolution, now's the time for him to declare his kingship. But instead, the mob that attacked the Capitol, waving Trump flags and Confederate flags, stormed right past that portrait. That image of George Washington gave them no pause, but it should have. The artist who painted that portrait memorialized that moment because he said it was, quote, one of the highest moral lessons ever given to the world, end of quote. George Washington was the height of his power, having just defeated the most powerful empire on earth. Could have held on to power as long as he wanted. He could have made himself not a future president, but a future monarch, in effect. And by the way, when he got elected president, he could have stayed for 2, 3, 4, 5 terms till he died. But that wasn't the America he and the American troops at Valley Forge had fought for. In America, genuine leaders, democratic leaders with a small d, don't hold on to power relentlessly. Our leaders return power to the people, and they do it willingly, because that's the deal.
That's the deal, everybody. That is the deal. This was a wonderful speech.
Mary had a little man.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Let's be clear about the 2020 election. Trump exhausted every legal avenue available to him to overturn the election. Every one. But the legal path just took Trump back to the truth. That I'd won the election and he was a loser.
Let's put that on an endless loop and just listen to it over and over until it's beer o'clock. Let's just do that. Want to do that? I do. You got to know that more than anything, that's what I want to do. But this was an important and great speech. It was well done. It hit every single solitary truth that needs to be hit upon ahead of this election, which is in this year that we are in now, 2024. I mean, the idea that, we were talking when me and Brett during the breaks, listening to this speech, and he was saying, the idea that Joe Biden just told everybody once again that when Donald Trump was touring, the World War II grave sites, he called people that were buried in those graves who fought on behalf of, against fascism for democracy. He called them losers and he called them suckers, right? And it was Kelly's son. Remember, it was General Kelly's son who had died in Afghanistan that Donald Trump was calling a sucker and a loser. I mean, the idea, and I said, he said that can't be repeated often enough. And I said, but remember when Donald Trump was, just some guy with a reality TV show. I don't know what else to call the Celebrity Apprentice, with a fake reality TV show. When he said that he didn't like John McCain, that John McCain was no hero because John McCain, he likes people that weren't captured. Right? I said, well, didn't you think that would be the end of him? It wasn't the end of him. It was just the beginning of him. It was the beginning of the defiance. It was the beginning of the swim, like a salmon, swimming against the stream. It was the beginning of people saying, oh my God, this guy is different. As in different meant that he was going to do something good for you. And the truth is that, he did nothing good for you. He ran up $8 trillion worth of debt. He separated women and children. He put us through absolute hell. He incited violence against his own country. He lied incessantly. He was told that he couldn't even be the head of a charity because he was so abusive of the 501c3 rules and just self-dealt, and paid himself. I mean, the guy is just an exceptionally selfish human being. And, Biden is just doing this today, January 5th, because tomorrow is the 3rd anniversary of January 6th, and we still haven't been able to start the trial to decide for the legal purposes that America exists for. We're not a country of men. We're a country of laws. And so we still haven't been able to begin a trial, not even jury selection, to figure out whether or not the past president of the United States of America is guilty of engaging in and or giving aid and comfort to those who did engage in violence against our own capital. It's real slow because Donald Trump has a lot of money. Probably other people's money. In fact, we know it's other people's money that he's using for his legal defenses. And he's able to slow it all down. He's able to throw sand in the gears. But we were just, we were able to learn from Joe Biden's speech just now that, 900 people have been jailed, 900 people, 1,200 charged, 900 pled guilty or were found guilty of committing insurrection against the United States of America. And it was like some of them got 20 years, some of them got 18 years, some of them got 3 years, some of them got 5 years, but somebody added all of it up and came up with the number that was, greater than 850 years for committing a violence against their own country. I mean, do you understand? I know you do, but it's gruesome and it's a grift. It's a grift. And so this speech ought to be given every single day this year. Every single day it ought to be given. Because it's frightening what we're up against right here. It's frightening, not up against, but it's I shouldn't put it that way. What I'm trying to say is if there's enough cheating or if there's enough, I don't know what to call it, like denial of truth. If there's enough of America, enough people in America who are willing to root for the end of democracy, deny truth, deny the decency that our country represents, doesn't always live up to it, as Biden so clearly kept on repeating. It's just something that we strive to get to. The equalization of all the laws, and that no one is above the law, and that no one is below the law, and that all people have value, and all people have the same representation, in the law. Now, we know that's a fantasy right now. We know that's not real, but it's attainable. And so, if we have enough people who say the truth doesn't matter to me, and whether or not Randi and her daughters are free to make decisions about their own lives. Whether or not our children are free to read whatever they want to read. Whether or not we're free to move around the country. You know, the idea that they have, they want travel bans, and that we've already seen parts of Lubbock, Texas, enact travel bans for women who are not allowed to leave via the county roads if they're pregnant to go outside of the state to get medical services. If they're pregnant. I mean, we already saw that, right? So we have freedom that is being sacrificed at the altar of Trump. Obviously, we would lose the right to vote. Okay, there's no question. It's very difficult in some places to access the ballot. It's really hard. And yet we can't apply the law evenly so that a man who gave aid and comfort at the very least to these insurrectionists and still does, says he will pardon them. What more aid and comfort could you give to somebody? Calls them hostages, insinuates that they weren't given due process, insinuates that people who violated the Capitol violently didn't get due process, that they weren't tried, or they weren't offered a plea deal, or they weren't represented. I mean, he just keeps calling them hostages and saying he would pardon them, right? Whether or not we have enough people in this country who are willing to sacrifice my freedom, your freedom, freedom to do all the things I just mentioned, in service to insurrectionists, in service to an autocrat, in service to a man who literally quotes Mein Kampf, whether he knows what he's quoting or not, he's plagiarizing Hitler, whether he knows it or not. But when he descends into this horrific talk about poisoning the blood and calling people vermin so that they don't have humanity anymore, they're not real. They're animals. They're something below human. They're something less than a human, and they're entitled to no consideration that humans get because they're not deserving. They're not even human. Only you are. If we have people in this country who are willing to say that in enough places to cobble together 270 electoral votes, or if the man is able to rally enough violence to stop the certification yet again in 2025, a year from tomorrow, you understand it's here, right? What will we be? What will we be? We won't be free. We won't be independent. We won't be able to strive. We won't be able to be a democracy.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
So what's the Biden administration's plan? Well, as far as running the country properly, it's been pretty comprehensive and effective.
Yeah.
Wages are up, inflation is under control, the stock market is hitting records, consumers are feeling more confident, manufacturing is coming back, and God forbid, if we have another pandemic, our supply chains are stronger. America has rallied all of NATO and 20 more countries to fend off Russian expansionism in Ukraine. Our success there is probably keeping the Chinese from invading Taiwan and the North Koreans from blowing stuff up. The Biden administration has a lot to brag about as we head into 2024, but we have seen time and time again that those issues are not registering with voters.
Yeah.
Biden just isn't getting credit for them. For the most part, Biden's campaign so far has been about what he said he was running for in 2020, a battle for the soul of the nation. And don't get me wrong, protecting democracy and preventing our nation from slipping into autocracy is actually more important than inflation or the climate or abortion or immigration, because without democracy, you cannot debate or fight for any of those things.
I just hope everybody registers what was just said there. I mean, let's look at the numbers. Okay, today we got a new jobs report for December. Okay, 216,000 new jobs were added in December. A whole host of those jobs were in construction. Why would they be in construction? What the hell are we building? Well, remember, we passed an Infrastructure Act, number one. And number two, we're building factories all over this country now. The CHIPS and Science Act, together with the infrastructure bill, is creating a lot of construction jobs. $210 billion is being spent on manufacturing-related construction, meaning factories. Factories. Okay? And when you look at the analysis of what does that number represent, it represents more than triple the average rate of factory construction that we saw in the 2010s. This is according to, the census data that's out this week. 43,000 construction jobs last month alone. Last month alone. That's the Bureau of Labor Statistics number, okay? The number of jobs in construction from this time last year is up by 111,000 jobs. This is what people like me, although there's really no one quite like me, have been telling you were going to see at the end of this year after the Infrastructure and the Chips and Science Act was passed and signed by President Biden. After we were promised by grifting grievance man that every week was going to be infrastructure week. Now we got an infrastructure freaking decade. So we have this surge in factory building. We have, we're actually seeing labor shortages, which again plays into the immigration issue, okay? Because we need people here, yes, legally, to work jobs that Americans just don't need to work anymore because there's so much opportunity. You know what the average wage in this country is now? Do you know what it is? It's $35 an hour plus. Yeah, it's $35 an hour. I mean, the numbers are just incredible. Inflation is down. The unemployment number, the rate of unemployment is 3.7%. 3.7%, okay? Overall, the labor market has added just in 1 year, in 2023 alone, because, when we talked about 2021, and Biden was able to tell you, tens of millions of jobs. Oh, well, that's because everybody lost their job during COVID. That's because everybody was unemployed during COVID. Well, not everybody was unemployed during COVID. Those of us who worked through COVID know that not everybody was unemployed during COVID. A lot of us were not unemployed during COVID. However, we're so past that. Last year alone, we almost created nearly 3 million new jobs, 3 million in 1 year. Average monthly gain was 225,000 jobs a month, okay? And, in 22 and 21, those job creation numbers were astronomical. And, we're still keeping up the astronomical pace of job creation, which, by the way, Biden's record, if you want to be fair about it, is better than Trump's pre-COVID job creation record, which is how you should look at it. We have had unemployment below 4% for 36 months now. We have not seen that since the 1960s, which means most of us never lived through a period of this kind of growth. And guess where the benefits are landing? The bottom 50% of our workers in this country have seen their wages go up faster, outpace inflation, more than the top 1%. The top 1% has seen like an increase in their wages by like 1%, okay? In real numbers, it's a lot of cash. But by percentages, okay, the bottom 50% has seen their wages increase faster than inflation, meaning they are outpacing inflation, meaning that their spending power is greater now than it was pre-COVID. Here is a quote from Diane Swank. She's the chief economist at the accounting giant KPMG, okay, KPMG Marlowe. Everybody, she said this, quote, "In many ways, the labor market is at its best place it has been, not only since before COVID, but by some measure in decades." In decades. Yeah, he sucks. And who actually is the bottom? These are mostly blue-collar workers. The blue-collar society, the ones that Donald Trump said he loved, you know, Joe Lunchbucket, ever since Palin and Joe the plumber. And didn't he die last year? Joe the plumber? I think he did. Joe the plumber, dead. But, yeah, all of this talk about, you know, Joe the plumber and Joe Lunchbucket and we're the party of the middle class. No. The blue-collar class in this country has won big under Biden. And Biden promised that that would be the case if you made him president because he is blue-collar. He grew up that way. He understands it. He knows what it's like. He tells these stories incessantly, so I'm not going to repeat them, about how his dad had to leave and go to another state to get a job. But the unemployment, but the employment in service sectors, the employment in healthcare, the employment in social assistance jobs, the employment in construction jobs, the employment in government jobs. This is where the blue-collar workers of America are seeing opportunities that they've never been able to see for decades. I shouldn't say never, that they haven't seen for decades, which means for most of our working age people, not in their lifetime have they ever seen this level of opportunity. The reason why the bottom's doing so much better than the top is because the way that the soft landing was crafted made interest-vulnerable sectors suffer, and the rest of us prosper.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
It's the economy that keeps on giving and giving and giving. It has been giving now for 36 months of positive job growth with this newest report. You're absolutely right. So let's go through the numbers.
Thanks.
216,000. As you said, that is stronger than expectations. Expectations for perspective were closer to 160,000 for the month of December. Unemployment sticking at 3.7%. Guys, we have been in this range of really low unemployment of about 4% or below 4% for, John, as you said, about 2 years now. If you look at where we saw job growth over the last month, in the month of December, part of this was a continuation of what we have been seeing. We continue to see government add jobs to the tune of about 52,000 jobs, healthcare adding 38,000 jobs, and construction adding 17,000 jobs.
I seem to see that the wage numbers were pretty good also, that people's wages were up over 4% year to year.
Yeah, so wages on a monthly basis were 0.4%, and I'll pull up on an annual basis, they were up 4.1%.
Yep.
So this is one of those things, John, that sort of has two sides to it. So this is good news for American workers. Obviously, you want to see your paychecks go up. You want to see that nice little boost there. And by the way, wages have started to outpace inflation, so that's some good news. The other side of this, however, is that the Fed watches this to sort of ensure that we're not seeing a wage price spiral, essentially that higher wages aren't fueling inflation. That's not what we have seen just yet, but it is something that they continue to watch. But yes, as you said, certainly good news for American workers that their pay continues to move on up.
Moving on up, everybody, to the east side, to the deluxe apartment in the sky. Yes, our hourly average wage growth accelerated in December. For the year, we finished at 4.1% over the 12-month period to reach an average hourly wage of $34.27. Do you remember when we were fighting for $15 an hour? Do you remember when that was the clarion call? Do you remember that? Average hourly wages are now $34.27. It does mean that people make less than that, and some people do, but it's the average now. It's above inflation now. Inflation was 3.1%. Wage growth is 4.1%. So people are doing better with spending power by virtue of wage growth. And still, warning, Will Robinson, they're still out there going, well, you know, the Fed is watching because the Fed can't have you doing too well because that might start the inflation spiral all over. The inflation spiral was A, supply chains broke, and B, gouging. And why the mainstream media doesn't want to tell you that, I don't know. But that's what caused all of this pain and suffering. That's what causes eggs to be $9 a dozen. Okay, it's gouging, and the petrol. Okay, the average barrel of gas. You know what the price is, right? $70. So it shouldn't be $5 anywhere. I mean, it's just but here we have, a very successful presidency, and people are still, like, I want to deny the truth. I want to deny, that honor and decency are important to me. I want to deny, people freedom, because I think that by denying some people freedom, I will get more. Are you insane? Don't you understand that depressing freedom anywhere is depressing freedom everywhere? Just saying. But if there was one thing that Biden said in this speech that I wish he would give every single day for the next 362 days, okay, left in this year, because we have to get through to January 6th, no matter what happens in November. Okay, so that's why I'm saying a whole year of this. It's like I said, this is going to be a crazy year. There's no doubt about it. But the single most, I think, persuasive thing that Biden was able to describe to you that came out of Donald Trump's pie hole, that came out of his freaking face, is that he wants to see the Insurrection Act brought to bear on the United States so that he can deploy the United States military on the streets of America. Can you imagine what that would look like? Can you just smell the gunpowder in the air? I mean, could you just imagine what it would be like to have the American military? Put it this way. So New Year's Eve in Florida, they even sell fireworks in the freaking supermarket here, okay? And there are a lot of places in the South that actually do that kind of stuff, right? So, New Year's Eve, maybe where you were, you didn't hear fireworks unless they were professional fireworks that were organized by Macy's or, No, but, here in the South, you hear fireworks for every freaking holiday. You hear fireworks for Halloween. You hear fireworks for Christmas. You hear fireworks for New Year's. You hear fireworks for Labor Day. Because people love to blow crap up, okay? And so as much as the dogs hate it and as much as little children wail and cry and become, pestering, when you hear it, it's just some doofus blowing some M80s or, some, what do you call those things that, the cones?
The bottle rockets?
Not bottle rockets.
Roman candles.
Yeah, Roman candles. So that's just some douche doing that, right? But what if it wasn't? What if it was actually the military? What if, like, when we see helicopters flying over our houses because they're doing mosquito abatement, right? They're trying to keep the Zika numbers down. Whatever happened to Zika? I guess they banned it when they overturned Roe v. Wade because it was affecting the fetus. I don't know. But when you see mosquito helicopters or when you see anything, what if it wasn't a crop duster? What if it was a real Black Hawk helicopter? Do you know what I'm saying? When he said that in this speech today, when he said the military on the streets of the United States, I think that was very visceral. I think that was very persuasive because, during New Year's Eve when, I had a big dinner with my friends, Karen and Steve and blah, 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 and we cooked beautiful, beautiful dinner. That's what I like to do. Okay, because I don't like to be on the street. I don't want to be drinking and driving. I don't want to be on the road with people who will drink and drive or who could drink. So I always do it in my house, okay? And you hear all these fireworks. And we're kind of used to it, but for some strange reason this year, I kept thinking to myself, what if it isn't fireworks? What if it's, next year, it's not fireworks? What if the helicopters that go over your house to, do traffic reports in the morning or to do mosquito spraying in the summer or whatever, what if those are Blackhawks now? What if that drone that's flying over my backyard isn't my neighbor across the street having, a little playtime, but it's somebody who wishes me harm? Where would I go? Who would you talk to about that in Trump world? What if camp didn't include swimming lessons? See what I mean?
Fatality. This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Unlike other nations on earth, America is not built on ethnicity, religion, geography. We're the only nation in the history of the world built on an idea. Not hyperbole, built on an idea. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal. It's an idea. Declared in the Declaration, created in a way that we've viewed everybody as equal and should be treated equal throughout their lives. We've never fully lived up to that. We have a long way to go.
Yep.
But we've never walked away from the idea.
Yep.
We've never walked away from it before. And I promise you, I will not let Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans force us to walk away now.
So that was very well put. That was very, very well put. That we've heard that America is the only country based on an idea, the idea that all men and women are created equal, the idea that we would build a more perfect union, and that we would strive to spread freedoms wherever that we right. And so he's right. We've never fully lived up to it, but we've never run away from trying to perfect democracy or trying to keep the idea alive. They want to end the idea. There's no question about it. The idea of democracy is appalling to the Trump people. The idea of equal justice under law. The idea that no one is above the law, no matter how rich you are, or no matter how well situated you are, no matter what title you have. This is an affront to their goals and dreams of lording over you and me power. They want to rewrite history. They want to, change it to an alternative version of events. And that's what we've lived through this week, just watching them attack all kinds of education, whether it was Moms for Liberty and their, disingenuous, these were like the most what do you say, Hippocratic? No, because that's the hypocrisy laden. I don't know. How do you say it?
Hypocritical.
Hypocritical.
That's what I'm here for, Rand. I got your back.
I appreciate it. Yeah, these were the most hypocritical people that ever came down the pipe. I mean, they were sitting there telling you how they were going to raise, more perfect children. And the way to do it was to ban certain books, to ban certain ideas, to ban certain libraries from carrying certain ideas, ideas about equality, right? And it turns out that they're having videotaped threesomes and, stealing money from the Republican Party. Wow. But it didn't stop there. Oh, no. Oh, hell no. They went after a liberal arts college in Florida. And when Christopher Rufo was successful with those two, he decided he was going to go full on, full tilt boogie, as they used to say, all the way up to the Ivy League. And so far, 2 Ivy League presidents were forced to resign based on his 3-pronged strategy of using friendly congressmen to have sham hearings, appealing to, very, very wealthy billionaire donors that they could control education better, that they could control the equality, the march towards it better if they withdrew their donor money in this critical moment and insisted that diversity be ended. It never really was started at Harvard. It never really was. I mean, Harvard used to have quotas for Jews. You know that, right? Harvard was never a model of of democracy. In fact, you get extra points if you come from an elite family whose mother and father, or father, or aunt or uncle went to Harvard. You get extra points. That is legacy affirmative action. But they've been trying to go after equalizing education for the longest. And this guy, Christopher Rufo, with a live assist from the Trump people and the maggots, was really able to bring down 2 Ivy League college presidents based on bullcrap. First of all, it was a full frontal attack on the character of these scholars, these intellectual, super women. Just attack their character, attack their acumen, attack their character, their integrity, then call them in front of a sham hearing and call them out as being anti-Semitic or whatever. They did very poorly in those hearings, so, that was well thought out. And then get the donors to, pull $1 billion from, the corporation, which is what the Harvard Fund is called, the corporation, headed by Penny Pritzker. Also, these are wealthy, wealthy, wealthy people conspiring against us. And here you have a president who is literally throwing in with us and creating opportunity for us and moving everything forward for us. That's why they hate him so much.
A few things he said in the speech obviously resonated with me. I liked when he talked directly to the MAGA base when he said those influenced by the grift and the grievance, they know they're getting talked to. He knows exactly who he's talking to. He bullseyed that, but also saying no matter who you voted for, I'm going to continue to do this for you.
Yeah. I'm everybody's president, even if you didn't vote for me. I'm the president of all Americans. And, he lives that. He actually does live that. Sean in Kentucky.
Oh, hello, Randy. First of all, I want to thank you for your service, and thanks for having me on.
Mm-hmm.
It's an honor. I love Joe's speech, and I can clearly understand what he's saying. He's basically saying Trump's bad medicine, the MAGA movement's bad medicine, and what irritates me is the people on our side act as if he's not delivering a good message. I mean, if you can't understand what he's talking about, you just don't want to understand.
You're right, but it's more than just what he's talking about. If you can't see what he's done and accomplished, if you don't understand that, right, then you're not paying attention. And why aren't you? This is crunch time, people. This is A, it's an election year, and B, it's a rematch between Mr. Orange Pie Hole and decency.
I like it.
Right, I know.
Also, okay, thank you.
Oh no, you're welcome. Mike in Colorado.
Good day.
Hi.
I'm sorry. I know I'm probably taking you off the topic, but I wanted to talk about our friend Lauren Boebert.
Yeah.
She is. As everybody knows, she wants to move from the 3rd district to the 4th district.
Right, because Ken Buck is retiring, and so there's a space there for her to do that.
Well, her primary opponent and an outfit called Rhino Watch Colorado called her a carpetbagger, and I don't think she's going to win. Although the 4th district is more conservative than the 3rd,
right?
And I don't. If I would Adam Frisch, I would say, please don't go, because it looks like, from what I can glean, the other Republican candidates are quote unquote moderate or not as crazy.
Adam Frisch is a Democrat.
Yeah.
Right.
Former mayor of Aspen.
No, I think it's a city councilman in Aspen.
What? Was he a city councilman?
Yeah, I think so. But it doesn't matter. Listen, he came so close to beating her last time.
Right.
Right. Like it was like literally a handful of votes separated. I remember we didn't even know who won right away. We had to have a recount and all that. And so she's terrified of Adam Frisch. And because Ken Buck is retiring and he comes from the 4th, which is very conservative, makes the 3rd look silly. That's why she's changing districts. But she's like trying to change her stripes. Everybody knows Everybody knows she's nothing but an embarrassment, okay? Not just the Beetlejuice, not just the vaping, not just the boobies out in the middle of a Beetlejuice children's play, but, the Christmas cards with the kids, with the guns, and then her kid getting in trouble, and everything about her. She's like Sarah Palin without the jokes.
Well, she could, the Greeley Stampede comes up the last week in June, first week in July. She could campaign there by going and inspecting the bulls and the stallion during the stock show portion of it.
No, I think people are very embarrassed by her in Colorado. I think that, no matter what your politics is, having her represent your politics is a loser, okay, for everyone. Listen, there's a handful of nutbags. We've always had that. That's not what I'm concerned about at this very moment, because this is 2024. It is a presidential election year. Joe Biden did the right thing today, and if you ask me, he will always do the right thing. I think he, like I said, ought to give this speech every single day up to next January 6th. Have a good weekend.